Good afternoon. It is August 3rd, 2025, and I wanted to share a little bit about the homily I gave today at Mass. Now, in the Gospel reading, Jesus had just imparted um, all of this wisdom, right? And I could just imagine him coming to a close and say, "Okay, are there any questions?" And someone stands up in the back of the room, and this is in the gospel, and says, "Tell my brother to give me my inheritance," or parent. And I could just imagine when I read that, um, and I shared this with our faith community. What is the wisdom that we're learning now in this time? How are we getting the information? What is coming to us, imploring us or inviting us to go deeper? And when we hear that, and wherever the source is coming from, I mean, for those of you who find church in nature, I am totally in support of that. So what if we're out in nature and we just get this wisdom coming through nature and on the beauty of the earth, the beauty of all of the circle of life, the beauty of one another, of our own species. What do we do with that information? Where is our focus in the moment? Is it just embracing that incredible awareness and awakening? Or is it, did I leave the stove on? Where's our focus? And then driving home, I was thinking about current events. Um, and I mentioned this also in the homily. I try to keep politics out of church. I really am committed to the separation of church and state. But this is humanitarian. This is not politics. And I thought of the 11 days of fasting that a group of people in the concentration camp in the Everglades is in the process of doing. One of which is in the hospital now and still refusing to eat, honoring that commitment. And our air conditioner went out a couple weeks ago. I mean, it just blew. We have no air conditioning. We did get some remedy. We did get some swamp coolers, portable swamp coolers, that kind of thing. And we're okay. In light of everything going on today, is my biggest worry what's the temperature going to be this week? Where is my focus as a faith person, as a believing person? And when I say believing person, what I mean by that is believing something greater than just me. And I have always believed that it does not matter how you express that. I'm Catholic and I express it through the liturgy, but also I'm a shamanic practitioner and I express it through my awareness and appreciation of the spirit and all. Other people have different ways of expressing that. Like I said earlier, some people find church in the woods, in the forest, or on the beach, or in the desert. Other people find church in their families. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to say it a certain way in order for it to be right. The important thing is to experience it. If I'm experiencing the work of the Christ within me, how does that translate into how I respond to what's going on in the world around me? How do I respond to that? And I'm inviting you to have that same questioning. I'm inviting you to be aware. Just be aware. And what can we be aware of? I'm aware that there are thousands of people in this country, the United States, who were abducted off the streets, out of their homes, out of the places of business, out of the fields of the food that we rely on, abducted and disappeared into camps that have been springing up all over the country. I'm aware of that. Did a little digging on YouTube, on Google and AI. And don't you know, the for-profit prison industry gave millions to a political candidate's campaign. And now they are reaping the benefits, their return on investment is determined by how many people they can incarcerate and build the government. And so we have quotas, and they're filling up. And that industry is making a lot of money. That's just one thing. How do we respond to something like that? One of the community members, when I give my sermon or homily, we have a time when we really kind of break it open and talk about it. What does it mean for us in the world today? And someone made the comment, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what I can do. And I have heard over the past few months now, a lot of people talking about trying to figure out what it is they can do. And there are some who have said, well, I'm demonstrating out on the streets, I'm doing letter writing campaigns, I'm intervening. I've talked to a few people that actually do intervene when ICE shows up. And reporting that when enough people intervene, ICE backs off, which I'm glad for. But there's a significant number of people who are empaths and sensitives who have felt the call to stillness. Not the stillness of denial or go hide somewhere, but the stillness of holding the space in support of whatever needs to happen to happen. The stillness of holding that space where those who are active in the streets and whatever can have that spiritual support. I'm a former nun, and our community, the Franciscan Sisters of the Poor, our community for years had a separate group of sisters whose ministry was prayer and stillness to help and support those sisters who were in active ministry. And so there's a significant number of people who are called to that right now. And I also found myself responding to that question, I don't know what to do, what can I do? And I talked a little bit about the fact that a lot of us are empaths and a lot of us are sensitives. And when I mention sensitive, I'm not talking about emotions on our sleeves type thing. But I'm talking about that capacity to be aware of the energetics around us. So if we walk into a conference room and there has been a heated discussion beforehand, we can feel the energy of that. Or we walk into a place where there has been just an incredible amount of joy just a few moments before we feel that joy. That's what I mean about the sensitives. And, we're being hit by this energy 24/7. There's a lot of anxiety. Thousands of people are sitting in literally concentration camps in this country, not knowing if their family knows where they are, which most do not knowing what happened to their houses or apartments or automobiles or children or husbands or wives or families. And what really hit me this morning, not even knowing what happened to their pets. And I could still get emotional about that. All of that anxiety, we're being hit by that 24/7. It's in the collective. So one thing that we can do is find that stillness within. Yes, be aware of what's going on. Absolutely. If we're aware of what's going on, then we could not be then overwhelmed by it. There are no surprises. I know when people post on Facebook, for instance, guess what happened just now? This is coming down the pike. And my typical response is, there's no surprise here. We knew this was coming. It was in Project 2025. We've had access to that document since at least 2022. We were warned, we were told that this would come down. The presidential candidate, who did not win, predicted all of this. We knew it. We knew it was happening and going to happen. So there are no surprises. But if we can bring ourselves to a place of understanding, there's a broader picture at play here. And holding on to that joy that is ours to hold on to. It's the gift of the Holy Spirit. That joy and that peace, that deep, deep-seated place within us. Yes, we can hear the news, we can watch the news, we can support one another. And do our inner work to find out, how am I complacent with this? How am I in agreement with this? How can I hold that energy of compassion and love for all the players? And I've said this before, we're in a time of tremendous shift into a new paradigm. Tremendous shift. And I really believe that we're invited now, as horrendous and heinous and wrong as a lot of what's happening is right now. When we can come to that place within us, God, that basically says, forgive them for they know not what they do. It doesn't mean to slide under a rug somewhere or lose the documentation or whatever. I could go off on that. What it means, though, is as we hold accountable all the players in this, ourselves included, as we hold accountable the perpetrators of what is happening in our country today, we also recognize that they are part of the collective too. And they have been misled. And they have been allowed to explode behaviors and attitudes and perspectives, biases, prejudices that before now we really have not really seen. And that's a pretty big statement when you think about it. when you think of our history as a nation. What's coming up now is deep, deep, deep stuff. It has to come up so that we don't continue to repeat these cycles. When we do our inner work and bring ourselves to a place of understanding who we are and my capacity for imprisoning and hate and whatever it happens to be, when I can get in touch with that and ask the universe for healing of that. If we can do that for one another and not dish out hate for hate, ridicule for ridicule, they do not know what they do in the bigger picture. I made that comment one time with somebody and said, well, sister, yes, they do know they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And my response was, yes, in the moment. But the broader perspective of the participation in the cleansing to move us into a new paradigm, I don't think they do. I don't think they do. Because the source within them, if they did know, they couldn't do it, what they're doing now. And I believe that with all my heart. So I invite us this week, yes, there's some horrendous things happening. And we are going to be seeing that and feeling that in the collective. And being bombarded by that. But if you can sometime this week, just take some time and be in stillness. And just ask your inner self, how am I contributing? How can I cease to contribute? What do I need to do to change me so that I'm not contributing to the hate and the anger and the fear and the loathing and the bigotry that is bubbling up in the collective today? And ask that higher source, whether it's the Holy Spirit, whether it's whatever your faith tradition informed you as that higher energetic being. Or even if there isn't one, for those who have a more atheistic perspective. But ask, how can I change? And it's okay to ask for help. Bring me to a place where I can also understand, forgive them for they know not what they do. So that compassion can be the force that I rely on. That love can be that impetus that brings me to understanding. So that when I'm confronted with that hate and that anger and that fear and that anxiety and that meanness, when I'm confronted with that, I can still see the other in their divine perfection as they were created to be. That's a tall order given some of the players that we're seeing out there now. That's a tall order. But one thing that I fall back on, Jesus was a carpenter, and typically when we think of carpentry, we think of building houses or furniture. He built things like farm implements yokes for the cattle, those kinds of things. And when he says, take my yoke upon your shoulders, my yoke is easy. It's made in a way that will give you the support you need to pull the load that you're pulling. Take my yoke upon your shoulders. And please, for God's sakes, let's not forget all of those beings, women, men, children, who are sitting in those dismal, dismal places that are springing up around the corner, around the country. Not in the name of deportation, but more about profits and greed. And dare I say it, just pure meanness and cruelty. Let's not forget those beings. And let's remember to support all of those people who are resisting in any way possible, whether actively or through that stillness. And support those families. And there are organizations now forming to support the pets of people who have been abducted. Who would have thought that we would need such a service in this country? But there it is. I don't want to leave on a sad note. I mean, this is unbelievably heavy. But remember, the energy we put out there is going to make or break whether we succeed in changing things for the better. So let's just be attuned and attentive to what we're putting out in the collective this next week. If you see anything going on, search in that moment what you're called to do in response. And then have the courage to act on it, knowing that you're supported, knowing that there are millions of us out there who are holding the energy so that action can happen. Okay. This was a little off my regular topic, and that's okay. I'm all right with that. I hope you are too. But have a wonderful week, a supportive week. Do what you can do. Just do what you can do. And let that be okay. All right. Take care and see you next week. Bye-bye.